I Own It will give you a front row seat to the positioning, bold moves, and sometimes the dog-eat-dog negotiations that go on behind the scenes of the deals that break the norms, set the precedent, and become the case study we devour as we harnessed our craft. Welcome to the season. Leverage. You got it or you don't. On this week's episode, we sit down with Dr. Jamil Northcutt. Stay tuned for this fantastic episode. Jamil, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today in New York City. Appreciate you spending time with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's good to be here. Good to be at Central Park, around this area, and in the city, having a conversation with you today.
So our first season is about leverage, and everyone has a different lens how you look at leverage. What does leverage mean to you?
Well, for me, when I think about leverage, I pull from my athletic background. Really, to me, what it means is getting an advantage. So how do you have an advantage in a situation so that you can achieve whatever goals that you are? But sometimes having an advantage is not always about what you want, but what does somebody else need? And if you can figure out what that need is, then now you can solve a problem and be a solution. So now both people have advantages, but you come in as a person that can bring something to the table that somebody needs, which really in business and in life, you're able to offer something that they don't have, essentially, which helps them drive change for what they need.
When did you learn about leverage?
Again, I like to talk about sports. I know a lot of people love sports. I'm a former Division I athlete. I worked in major professional sports for a number of years, NFL, Major League Soccer, NCAA level. When you play football, and I played defense, Eli Manning and I were teammates. He played for the Giants, obviously won 2 Super Bowls. But in 1999, we signed with Ole Miss. When you get to college, you ramp up kind of the knowledge base about what leverage is. And we talk about numbers, matchups, and angles. Really, when you start applying that to business, you really want to look at the numbers of people that you're around. That could be your relationships. You want to look at matchups. How do you connect with people, their core value systems, et cetera. And then angles, what's your angle? What do they need? What do you need, et cetera. When you're applying that information on the field, we want to create numbers from the standpoint of how can I outnumber the opponent to gain the advantage so that I can execute whatever play that I call. Offensively, you want to have more numbers than the defense so that you can have a one-on-one matchup, or you can gain an extra man, so to speak, so that you can break the play. On defense, what you want to do is you want to have more numbers than the team, than the offense does. So if you're calling a blitz per se, you want to outnumber them so you can get to the quarterback essentially faster. When we get in the red zone, we start talking about matchups with teams. How do we don't call plays, so to speak. I've been in coaching boxes with offensive coordinators. When you get in the red zone, they start talking about players over plays. Who has the matchup? How can you create leverage from that perspective to kind of outnumber or outwit the opponent? Who's the weak link on the defense? How can I get my best player the ball in a negative matchup? And then when it comes to angles, when you're using a numbers games, how can I out leverage the defense or the offense with the numbers game or with some kind of play that I call that allows us to execute and give us an advantage?
When you experience leverage, there's always the side of I have the leverage or I don't. What side were you on?
I think I've been on both.
Okay.
But I think it's also how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
When I've been on the negative side of leverage, you could be in the dumps of what you experienced or what type of adversity that you're facing. But when you kind of come to your senses and you get over the emotions of it, you start to realize, hey, I actually am not in the worst case scenario. I'm actually in a situation where I've got good relationships. I've got these skills and abilities and strengths to overcome the adversity that I'm facing. And, I actually can put myself in position and rethink where I am. It's all about how you're managing it mentally that helps you kind of overcome the adversity. When I'm on the good side of it, it feels great because I'm not really trying to conquer anyone. I'm really trying to do right by somebody. It's about giving to others and helping them achieve their goals. And so if I'm doing that I'm always giving. Again, it kind of goes back to the negative side. So when I've already sowed good seeds to people, when I'm in a disadvantage, then I can utilize some of those resources that I've given to others to help me climb out of those bad situations.
So how did you implement what you learned from all your experiences, whether in sports or business, from leverage?
Yeah, I think you just have to think about it. You have to spend time alone, looking within, and really thinking about these life experiences that you've had over time and how these things have not only just helped you, but how they help other people. And so again, I like to learn from other people's mistakes. If I hear somebody talking about finance and talking about leveraging properties and equity to go create more opportunity, then what am I gleaning from that and how am I applying it to my life? It's about that word application. Some people can learn finance, some people can learn about business, but they really don't apply the information because application requires taking risk. And sometimes we have to take the risk of the learning material to actually apply it to what we're doing so that we can achieve our goals and reach our highest potential.
What Jamil just mentioned is not only do you have to learn, you have to learn how to apply the knowledge you've obtained. So I want you to ask yourself, are you putting in the extra effort to apply the knowledge you have? Don't just learn something, learn how to apply it in your life. NIL is a big topic. Everyone talks about it, debate about it. It's been going on for years. How do university administrators view enhanced players, leverage, and the NIL?
I don't think they really view it in a positive way. I really feel like now they talk about it as such because they have to, but I really feel like if they lean into it, lean into the business. I've worked in both professional sports and collegiate athletics. You got to lean all the way into the business. There's a great amount of opportunity that exists out here for everybody to make money because that's what everybody wants to do. And right now there's a fight over the money because it seems like it's a zero-sum game. If they make the money, then we're not getting it. That's not necessarily true. We understand that money can be a spiritual thing. Everybody can eat at the end of the day. Everybody loves sports. People benefit from what players do on the field. And administrators, at the end of the day, nobody really comes to see us administrate. I've been a player and I've been on the administration side. People come to the game to watch the guys ball.
That's right.
That's what they come to do. And so why not lean into the business side of it and figure out all you can do to make as much money for everybody at the end of the day?
So professional sports, okay, let's lean in a little bit. How do league executives view superstar empowerment era going on right now?
I think it's great. You know, you have to understand when shifts and change happen. So like the bottom line of my business is about strategic transitions. My company is called Strategic Transitions Advisors. When there's shifts and change, you have to understand that. These things are constant, they happen all the time. The definition of transition is any event or non-event that results in changes in relationships, assumptions, roles, and routines. And when these things change, which sports has shifted from club attachment to more player attachment. Okay, so now we need to have better relationships with our players because that's going to lead to what? Long-standing opportunity for all of us at the end of the day. We need to be able to work with each other. We need to be able to provide advantages or leverage for all of us to be able to benefit and receive and go after the things that we want. And I feel like that's what pro sports and collegiate sports needs to do. We got to understand the shifts and the changes that have happened. Again, it's like with Major League Soccer. You know, when I was there, we signed Lionel Messi. He's one of the greatest stars in the world. And so at the end of the day, how are we leaning into the fandom of people who love him for who he is? It's the same way about LeBron James. These guys go to different arenas. Everybody's coming to support them. So how are we, making our business understand that reality of the players and who they are and what they've been able to do for us over time?
So how can strategic change management create leverage in organizations that looking to evolve and grow?
Yeah, I think you just have to understand assets and liabilities. So within the model of transition theory, the theoretical framework, they talk about assets and liabilities. You have to look at the situation. You have to look at yourself. You have to also look at the kind of support that you receive, and you also have to understand strategy. So any of those things can be an asset or liability, but you want to create those opportunities into assets for yourself. And so for companies, they need to be able to understand what's your situation, who are the players that are around these scenarios that you need to work with, what kind of support do they have, because everybody needs support, but then you also have to be strategic, and you have to navigate change strategically in order to be successful.
As Jamil just mentioned, he thought he was on the wrong side of leverage. And in fact, he realized he was on the right side of leverage. I want you to train yourself as it pertains to leverage. There's assets and liabilities in every type of leverage you incur. There are both sides in everything. So in college and professional sports, who has the leverage? The owner, the university, or the players?
I think everybody has a certain amount of advantage.
Okay.
It all depends on how they use it. I feel like in the collegiate game right now, players have a lot of the power, but they are so young that they haven't had enough life experiences to understand how to leverage that power and the resources that they have in order to get what they ultimately want. So for instance, an example would be a lot of the players want to, in the future, they want to make it to the NFL or play in professional sports. But that's only one vision. They don't realize that sports is just part of their life. It's not their life. Life expectancy is 80 years at the end of the day. Average playing careers in professional sports are like 4 to 5 years in all the major sports leagues. NFL is 3.2, Major League Soccer is around 5. Some sports play longer. You see your stars play longer, but a lot of the athletes on the back end of their careers are playing 1 to 2 years of professional sports. And so they have to start having a bigger vision for what their life looks like long term. So again, you got to take this short-term career and make it into a long-term play for yourself. And so being able to understand that leverage as an athlete is essential. As an owner in professional sports, I feel like their leverage comes with, obviously they own the teams and they get write-offs for their assets, et cetera. But I feel like their leverage can come by having relationships with the athletes. A lot of the times there's always this perception that owners and players can't interact, that it's management and then it's the labor system. That's not necessarily how I feel like it should go based off my experience. I feel like when you can connect owners and players together, now you create different types of relationships when you get to the CBA table. Right. And I feel like that's where owners can lean in a little bit more. When it comes to leagues, obviously you're the middleman, but you're also negotiating with the union on behalf of owners. And I feel like if leagues are listening to their stakeholders in a different manner and not just trying to position things, but if people can kind of understand everybody's scenarios, you got the right people working, former athletes working in your office, you also got executives and other business people there. It's really about the people that you're bringing into the system. If folks can kind of work with each other and understand each other's sides, I think you can have a better sports product from the business standpoint and also on the field.
So you worked in the MLS, and soccer, as you know, football we'll call it, biggest sport in the world. There's no bigger sport. How can the United States and the MLS create leverage where it could become that premier sport like you see in Europe with the TV and the revenue that it generates? What can we do as Americans to create leverage, to attract the Leo Messis, to attract the Neymars and the Ronaldos to come here and give them an opportunity, just like Beckham did years ago in that experiment? What can we do better to create leverage?
I think from my purview, it's about telling better player stories. Who are our players? Where do they come from? And how do they get on this career path? And where are they going? What's their growth project? Again, a lot of people are interested in lifestyle pieces. Who are these folks off the fields and courts of play?
Right.
And how do they connect with us as fans and other human beings? Because again, they are humans. They're not superhuman, which we try to do that, but we have to humanize the player for people to understand that. And the more we can create opportunities to tell better stories about players, the better, the more leagues I feel like we grow.
So leverage is used throughout our lives. When has leverage gone too far, in your view?
Yeah, I think leverage goes too far in my view when people abuse their advantage. When you start abusing your advantage, that's when we start going too far, and that's when people are taking and are not necessarily putting back. We live in an earth where we've been told that it's about sowing and reaping. You got to be able to invest something back in. If we get produce from the ground, we take what we need, but we also get the seeds and we put it back in. when people go too far and they start abusing relationships and they're only taking and they're never giving back, that's where I feel like leverage goes too far.
Oh, that's so well said. Well, Jamil, thank you so much for joining us. What a privilege to have you on the show, and thanks for sharing your knowledge of leverage.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Awesome.
It's time to jump out of your comfort zone and start using leverage you have right in front of you. Are you ready to put in the hard work? If you said yes, then what are you waiting for? Let's go out there and own it together.